The Curse of the Pharaohs. A myth that terrified many, and scholars objected to it 97 years ago in 1922 was the opening of the most famous pharaonic cemetery in history in which the young King Tutankhamun lay. And with the first displacement of its stone door a fierce sandstorm, although the timing of the discovery was in the summer. And it was reported that a falcon was spotted with his wings feverishly around the cemetery. What raised the curse of the pharaohs? Scientists and prospectors myth in front of new archaeological discoveries, is it fact or fiction? The death of 40 researchers. The curse really began when the Englishmen Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon discovered the tomb of King Tutankhamun. The first victim of the curse was the bird that Carter placed in the hotel balcony. Inside the cage, then began a series of strange events that have no explanation yet, and at the official opening of the cemetery, Lord Carnarvon fell ill with a strange disease. Severe fever and seizures such as epilepsy, and the doctor's inability to explain the situation, and then died in the middle of the night. Even stranger than that is the power cut to all of Cairo at the moment of Carnarvon's death. After that, some mentioned that the death might be due to a mosquito bite at the opening of the cemetery, and others said it was a result of poisoning or because of a sharp object inside the cemetery. But all of them are efforts to keep the cause of death mysterious. After that, death began to claim the lives of everyone who participated or contributed to the opening. The secretary of Carnarvon died for no apparent reason, then his father committed suicide after his death. During his funeral, the horse that was pulling the coffin cart ran over a small child and killed him. The American archaeologist, Arthur Mays, also died after his help to Carnarvon in the opening of the cemetery, where he became severely ill and then passed away. George J., the American millionaire friend of Carnarvon, was also blinded and died soon after he saw the cemetery. Then, Evelyn White, an Egyptian archaeologist at the University of Leeds, died in mysterious circumstances, and everyone was surprised after his death by leaving a message saying, "The curse of the pharaohs has come." Egyptian woman at the Louvre Museum with heat stroke as he left the king's tomb. Damn victims. One of the strangest things that happened was the story of the Egyptian antiquities inspector Mohammed Ibrahim, who was forced by officials at the time to send some of the treasures of the pharaohs to be displayed in Paris museums despite his opposition to that. And a few days later he was run over by a car while crossing the street. The German author Philipp van Tabarge about his lack of conviction with the curse of the pharaohs. The German author says the greatest evidence that this curse is myths that nothing happened to me. But the surprises were that Dr. Mares died suddenly at the age of 52 from cardiac arrest while preparing to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the discovery of a tomb Tutankhamun. THEPHARAOHS. Although THEPHARAOHS, the former Minister of Antiquities, was cursed by the pharaohs, but he personally was exposed to strange situations that he was confused about explaining. For example, when THEPHARAOHS, along with a group of atomic energy scientists and some archaeologists, tried to move the mummy of King Tutankhamun outside the cemetery to place it on the X-ray machine to decipher the mystery of his death, this little pharaoh, a severe dust storm blew up, causing everyone to fear and panic. Dr. THEPHARAOHS reassured everyone that it was just a storm, and after the storm subsided, I carried the mummy to be placed on the latest X-ray machine, and it was a gift from the German company, Siemens. The device suddenly malfunctioned and did not work, and attempts to restart it failed. Minutes later received Dr. Zahi calls from his sister screaming and informing him of her husband's death. Then Drive decided. Zahi returns to Cairo to participate in the funeral, and when he called the Minister of Culture, PharaohsThe at the time, to inform him of the news, he discovered that the minister had entered the hospital after suffering a health problem, and for your information, PharaohsThe, the Minister of Culture, was the one who issued the decision approving the transfer of the mummy. Read another story: The Secret of the Suspicious Sphinx Hole, a lake, catacombs and a city beneath the statue dammed the ocean. Terrifying stories emerged within the Atlantic Ocean after the sinking of the British Titanic ship. Some say it carried a pharaonic mummy, containing a mantra that says, "Get up from your shrine, Osiris. A look from you wipes out your enemies who violated your sacred sanctity." The sinking accident of the Titanic was recorded as one of the biggest disasters in modern history so far in terms of the number of those who saw a death with their own eyes and the moments of terror they lived before their death. According to the American newspapers of The Washington Post and The New York Times, the mummy of the Princess Amenra quoted from the passengers who survived the sinking disaster, including Frederick Kimber. They said that their companion on board the ship, William Stead, who was responsible for transporting the princess, told them stories about the curse of the Egyptian mummy the night before the sinking of the Titanic, confirming that Stead himself sank with the ship. Illusions of curse. Mohammed Abdel Maksud, former head of the General Central Administration of Egyptian Antiquities, says, "The curse of the pharaohs does not exist and all the incidents that occurred are nothing but coincidences, and if the curse was present, it would not be associated with every discovery. And I would like to make it clear that the display of many films that talk about the curse contributed to the growth of this illusion." And he continues, saying, "Those who promoted the curse of the pharaohs are originally distorting the Egyptian civilization with the aim of intimidating it until new discoveries occur and intimidating those in charge of work. Especially since the Egyptian civilization is a unique civilization, and every ambiguity leads to excitement and suspense. And this is what applies to the story of the curse of the pharaohs." And Dr. Muhammad said, "The whole issue does not come out with some magic spells and writings on the walls of the graves, as well as some invitations written by the owner of the cemetery that call for misfortune to the finder of the cemetery. And examples of these calls are that death will happen to everyone who tampers with the cemetery," confirming that most of those who died were the result of entering the cemetery was wrongly affected or infected with viruses and microbes due to the lack of ventilation of the cemetery and entering it directly. Also, most of the deaths were for non-Egyptians, and the death of some Egyptians was nothing but a coincidence. Damn, it exists, and this is the evidence. As for Atfa Abu el-Dahab, the former Undersecretary of the Ministry of Antiquities, his statement was a surprise, as he emphasized the existence of the curse, saying, "Yes, there is the curse of the pharaohs, and it does exist. We do not know our life like the elves, as it exists, but we do not see it, as well as the curse of the pharaohs, as it is linked to magic and the other world and is unknown to us." Eighth continues his words, saying that the pharaohs worked hard in thought and philosophy to the extent that they are the only ones who went after death because of the importance of that. They wrote their names on the graves so that the soul would not find it difficult to return to the body. The other wrote magic spells in order to protect his body from theft, so he used to write phrases on the cemetery that frightened hearts, such as, "I." And Abu al-Dahab continues, saying, "Indeed, there is something mysterious about this issue, especially given that the pharaohs have reached a very advanced stage of progress and prosperity to the extent that they have implanted malignant germs inside the graves, most notably the anthrax virus, so they are the first to discover biological weapons and use it to protect their graves from any external aggression. Also to clarify that all those who died because of the curse died of mysterious reasons that modern medicine could not explain." He adds, "For example, the financier of the expedition that discovered Tutankhamun, Lord Carter, his dog died of the same disease in London. And also the ship, Queen Elizabeth, was on a trip from England to America in the early last century and had all the safety factors, and suddenly in the middle of the ocean sank in the depths. The divers went into the water to search for the causes of the drowning, and they did not find anything broken. But rather all the devices are intact in the ship except for the presence of an Egyptian coffin wrapped in the machine room with invitations that afflict everyone who approaches it. She represented angels to them, and each king had a task to do. For example, Isis is a good goddess, or the god Seth is the gods of people. Therefore, it can be said that the pharaohs have reached a very advanced stage of knowledge and wisdom. At the same time, they are the first to use hashish in conducting their surgeries. And they also treated infertility in women,